Hello and welcome back to another tutorial in Maya. It's the new year and it's time to learn something new. So check this out. I've been going a lot lately with the materials because they're kind of interesting. This is the dielectric material and it's a glass material. It's basically meant to simulate glass, and this is kind of what it does. I'm going to hit pause, and as you can see, I have a basic simple plane set up with just a quick fractal or I mean whatever. Just got a texture on there, and then I have some text and then a sphere. So essentially I just assigned this sphere with what's known as the dielectric material, and as you can see here, it's dielectric material. And in this case, the text is passing through the sphere here. It's actually intersecting this glass sphere. So you'll notice that the text sort of stays the way it should be. It looks the same. But if this were on the outside, everything here would be upside down. So I'll show you that with the physical sun and sky simulation, where I basically use the same sphere, but will show with objects in the back instead of actually going through the material itself. And I'm going to show you kind of how to do this. It's a basic shader in Mental Ray, and it's kind of fun, but it has some quirky sort of properties to it. So let's take a look at them. I'm going to push pause there. Let's just get rid of this movie. No, I don't want to save that. And here's what it looks like just sort of on a simple level in the physical sun and sky. I basically did the same thing, just have an object coming through the scene, but in this case the object is passing behind the sphere here. So that's kind of what you're seeing there. And I don't know how well this shows up on YouTube, if it's going to be all jerky or whatnot, but seems like I'm getting hung up here. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to hit pause. Sometimes that happens when I do like high definition output and I'm trying to play back a video while I'm using this screen flick recording program for tutorials. So just something to be aware of. It's not really it looks a lot better when I see it just playing on its own. But as I scrub through here, you'll notice that because this craft is behind the glass sphere, it sort of picks up reflections and refractions and all sorts of visual stuff like a glass sphere would. And that's really cool because you can use glass for lots of different things, or just use a glass effect to achieve, you know, anything that has to do with a reflective, see-through, you know, surface. But there are some stuff that we have to know before we really get into this this material. And let's take a look at how to kind of work with this material and get started so that you can have good results later on. So I'm going to go ahead and quit that. I'm going to bring up Maya, and inside of this project, this is a project that was from the Mastering Maya 2009 book, Cybex Press, Autodesk, and this is in chapter 10. And it kind of shows you what's behind setting up a scene with glass, where you have reflections, and you know, the light is coming in, the color of the liquid might be different here, the glass color might be different here, and you want to kind of have a lot of realism attached to that. So, you know, in this case, you can kind of see what they did. The air glass to 1, this is the air actually just touching the glass. So that's one material. In this case, you would create 3 different dielectric materials in order to model or get a simulation of glass and water together. So this would be part 1. And you can see how that's modeled, where it's sort of just all of the glass, but before, you know, it touches the water. Now if I touch the air to glass 2, you'll notice that down here, this is the second part of the glass. This is the glass to air contact, and then it's going to have a liquid inside here, but you can see where that's the second part. And then on this part, we have the inside of the glass that is actually touching, you know, the glass to the actual air. So that's that part. And then in this case, if you wanted to model something with a transparency like a blue liquid or something like that, you could go ahead and switch to the well, you'd have to create a surface top like this. In this case, it's just a NURB circle, but you'd have to make a circle and assign a dielectric material to that as well. So you can see where basically this is kind of complex in terms of setting up a model that's going to be able to accurately reflect all of the caustics and the you know, shininess and the colors of the light as it's passing through one color into another color and back out onto a plane. So anyway, that's the concept. So just wanted to show you that real quick, and then we'll go and look at how you create this. So let's take a look at how you create it. In this case, I'll just go File, New Scene, and no, I don't need to save that. And here's a scene. Let's just do something real quick. We'll create just maybe say a plane. I'll just create a quick plane here. And then maybe just create do a sphere. We'll stay real basic on this because there's nothing really that complicated with modeling at the moment. It's just a matter of looking at the dielectric material. And I might bring that down a little bit. There we go. And let's light this with just one light to start. And let's just do let's do a spotlight. I'm going to hit spotlight. Now, you'll notice that I don't know why Autodesk did this or if this could ever be fixed, but for every time you pull up a spotlight, if it could just be aiming straight down, that would just be awesome. So Autodesk, if you ever watch one of my tutorials, let it be known that I want this to be pointing straight down when I call one of these up. So anyway, my grind for the day. I'm going to go ahead and just rotate this on the x-axis by like -90 because that's what I have to do every time I set up a spotlight, and it gets so annoying. Okay, so let's go up here like this. And in this case, let's go ahead and turn those lights on and maybe go into the shadow mode and actually go into high quality rendering. I don't know, it's up to you. You can do what you want. Anyway, just sort of put a spotlight above there and kind of center that out. That's good for now. All right, we're ready to get on to the last step. It's really easy. Just go into your Hypershade, go to your rendering editor, Hypershade. And what we're looking for in the Hypershade over here is the Mental Ray. And under Materials, you'll notice that you have this one called Dielectric Material. All right, so what we're going to do is just create one. Click on it, and there it is. It looks black right here because that's kind of how it shows up. But we're going to go ahead and assign that. Let's assign this dielectric material to our sphere. So we'll just, activate your sphere, right click, come down to existing material, and there we go. So in this case, let's do a quick render and actually just see what it looks like by default. I'm going to move that out of the way. Let's do a quick render, and there you go. But you'll notice that it doesn't look like anything because we're on Maya software. Well, we're using a Mental Ray material, and that dielectric material is sort of native to Mental Ray. So go ahead and activate your Mental Ray. And then click on your render settings. That'll bring up your render settings window. And let's just sort of set our quality right off the bat for like production quality. So I'll go from draft and set it up for production because that'll make things look nice. And let's just sort of go with that for the moment. I'll move the render settings, and let's take another render. As you can see, we're starting to get something. It looks like there's a sphere there, there's a shadow, there's a light, and obviously this is a plane underneath there. So let's see if we can sort of play with this a little bit more and get something that might look a little more realistic. Let's go ahead and add another light, like let's say an ambient light. So come over, create ambient light. And in this case, I think I'll just put it up overhead and sort of in the front and sort of up over here. And now we'll take another render. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit more. Let's take a render on that. See what happened. Now this is just default, so you can see where the light up there, the ambient light, sort of brought up the overall mood of it, which is cool. We have sort of a shadow here which overcrosses the light here, and another shadow here. But technically, if this were glass, this down here would be see-through, so the reflection and the color down here would be more toward the green spectrum. So let's look at how to start working with this dielectric material through the hypershade. You might want to just click on it, activate it in the hypershade, bring up your tab here, and there's our dielectric material. You can kind of play around and set it to anything that you want. In this case, let's set the color to something just off the start, to something more like water or some sort of glass. So we'll just pick a color like that, just at random. And in this case, I'm going to set the Phong coefficient to 100, and I'm going to go ahead and hit ignore normals. And basically what that does is it just tells the camera, or anytime you turn or spin around in the scene, that highlight will be facing the camera. There's reasons to use it and not, but for the moment just set that to 100, and that'll keep the specular highlights kind of facing the camera. Great. Now let's take a quick render on that and see what it looks like. And there you go. So you can see where we have a nice green color, and that's cool. I like that. All right, so if we look at our color now, you'll notice there isn't really anything else to do over here. The index of refraction is sort of a known. It's a physical known, and it should be at about 1.5. That's going to give you real accurate refraction. And outside index of 1 is going to be just fine. So anyway, that's it for there. Now let's take a look at maybe adjusting this a little bit. Let's say this color it's a little bit, well, right now you can see where our color is sitting there. If I click on color and maybe give this more, if I switch over to our hue, saturation, and value levels, I might be able to up this a little bit from here, because I want this to be a little bit brighter, but right now I'm at 100%. Oh, no, excuse me. I'm at 0.941. So really what I want to be at is maybe like say 1.5. And let's just see what that value does real quick. I'll do a quick render, and there you go. So you can see we're just changing the values, sort of brings it up a level. I could go back to there and maybe set it down to 1.0 or just 1. So let's say I give it a value of 1. All right, let's see what that does. And there it goes, kind of back to the same. So anyway, you get the idea. That's how it works. Let's go on to the next stage. Now you'll notice that there's a couple of different shadows being thrown here. Right now, I think for the moment, I'm going to get rid of the shadow that's being cast by my ambient light. So we'll come in there real quick. Let's isolate that ambient light, which is right there. And in this case, I'm going to turn off the ray trace shadows. So we don't need the shadows. Come in here, we'll do a render real quick. And as you can see, that's gone. But now this down here, it technically is the shadow being cast by the spotlight hitting the green glass. But that green glass needs to be green down here. So technically the dielectric material does not throw an accurate shadow. It won't give you a caustic shadow. It won't give you that nice green sort of gradation from dark to light into the middle here. So we have to kind of fake it a little bit sometimes. And in this case, it's a little strange. So first, what we need to do is we need to come into your hypershade and look at your dielectric material. But while we have this chosen, you actually want to go to graph, and let's look at the input and output connections for a moment. You'll notice that you have another node here. It's the shading engine itself that you have to click on. And when you click on this, you'll notice that you get your shading engine right here and the material right here. Well, what we're interested in doing with this is we want to actually attach a photon shader. And by default, because I already have a dielectric material set to this object, I need to attach a shader. So I'm going to right click on Photon Shader and I'm going to break the connection. And then I'm going to add right here. I'm going to go ahead and click on the checkerboard to add. We're going to go to Mental Ray. And underneath photonic materials, you're going to notice that you have a dielectric material photon. Well, that gives us a photon. That gives us a kind of a node that says, hey, let's get that photon in there, which means that bright green kind of highlight that's going to be cast onto the floor or the plane. So now that I got that in there, I might want to go back and first look at our color and the settings. The photon should have the same settings as your material. So in this case, I'm going to make sure that it has this color. It's set at 1.5, 1, and 100. Ignore normals. All right. So let's do that. Let's go to our dielectric photon, which is right here, and I'm going to hit the color. And I know that this was sort of my color that I had before. So I'm going to go ahead and punch that one in, and let's see how that looks. I'm at 1.51. Let's put this to 100 on the Phong coefficient and go to ignore normals. And let's take a look at what we got. And you'll notice right off that it doesn't change. It doesn't change, and you'll be wondering why. Well, because we have to go in and adjust some more settings now, because we've actually assigned it a photon, but we have to go into our different parameters here for a couple of different things. And in that case, we want to come back into Mental Ray. Let's look at our features and make sure that you have caustics checked, because caustics are going to add that they're going to add that specular down there. So I'm going to do another quick render and we'll see if we see anything. Okay, did another rendering, but nope, still doesn't show up. Well, that's weird, you might ask. Well, it is, because we really have to come back and look at our scene here and think, well, for the light up here that's coming through our sphere, we want to make sure everything is set correctly for it. And in this case, I don't really want to be using depth map shadows. We should probably switch it over to ray trace. And down in the Mental Ray section, you'll notice that you have a caustic and global illumination. Well, you want to make sure emit photons is checked. That way the photons from this light can pass through the glass and get down here onto the shadow area. So now that we've enabled that, at default, let's take another look and see what happened. All right, bingo. There we go. Got our photons. Now you can mess with your photons all you want. So that's kind of how it works. Let's do a close-up. Get right in here, and we'll do another quick render. And now it's time to start fine-tuning some of this stuff. So you'll notice that it's sort of just a real basic, but this is giving you an idea of what's happening. Now you can vary the intensity of your light. You can come over here and change the photon color. In this case, I want to look at this shadow color, and because this technically should not be gray, it should be more of a greenish, like the actual color of the glass as it's coming down here. So if I get that out of the way, I might want to come over, look at one thing. Let's look at our shadows. I'm going to move that out of the way. Let's look at the shadow color for this spotlight and see if we can kind of take advantage of just changing a shadow color. I'm going to come up here, and underneath the shadows in your spotlight shape, shadow color, I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to sort of start with this color, which is pretty close to what we've been using all along, and I'm going to change it to that, and then I'm going to maybe move it down just a little bit, just take the edge off it. So now let's do a quick render. and see what we got. And there it is. All right, so I guess you can see the concept. Working with this material requires a little bit of thought about where your settings are in Mental Ray, where all your settings are for your lights and your shadows, making sure that you have your caustics on. And in your render settings over here, make sure caustics is checked. And sometimes you can use global illumination, final gathering, whatever. And that's going to help everything with your glass and water and stuff like that you're doing. So anyway, you'll notice that the render time gets a lot longer when you start improving the detail and stuff. But that's how it's done, my friends. And man, I'm glad we got that in 20 minutes. I'm glad YouTube gave me some more time to do tutorials, because I'm not so stressed getting everything done in 15 minutes. So anyway, I hope you learned something. And as always, read a book every day, learn something, and of course, be the best person that you can possibly be. All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll come back with another one later on.